Good evening. I'm Dr. Reggie Ratliff, and welcome to Let's Talk DMV on Diversity Today Media. I'm excited about today's podcast, and before I introduce our guests, I'd like to bring in my co-facilitator, my co-host, and my co-laborer in the vineyard, and investment advisor, Terrence Hollingsworth. Terry, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing real good. How about yourself?
I'm good, man. I'm good, man. It's the start of another week. Um, thousands of students, K through 12 in college, are returning to school today, and I pray that everyone has a safe and enjoyable school year.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, it's a kind of weird place for us in this part. I mean, we're 2 years coming out of COVID,
Mm-hmm.
and COVID. We feel like COVID is over and done with, but guess what? We're not, and we see the market making adjustments to what COVID has done to our economy.
Yeah,
So, on one hand, you've got everyone trying to get back to a normal space. On the other hand, we got inflation that is running high, and we've got the Fed going. We need to slow down the economy. We
yeah,
need to make sure to get inflation down to 2%. And then we got students going back to school saying, I'm going to school so I can make something of myself and I can make a bunch of money and things like this. What do you say, Dr. Ratliff, to students that are looking to go and be like, I'm going to get a college degree, and that's going to be my ticket to wealth creation?
that's a great question. A lot of students go in with that mindset as they attend college, and even the IB programs at the high schools that do have the IB business program and economics program. I say always read. There's more than one resource outside of the textbook, and so not many schools, particularly in the African American community, have finance classes, stock market classes. So it's imperative to gain that knowledge on your own research, or to even ask your business teacher questions as it relates to finance and the economics and what have you, because we are trained professionals in these fields of business and economics. So, even if we don't have the answer right away, we know how to get the research. And the other key is for educators out there in business and economics, have fruitful discussions with your students in the class, bring up current topics and have them as assignments, and be able to discuss their writings as it relates to assignments. Most importantly, talk about it at home. Parents, you should be talking about finance with your kids at home, basically from birth, and talking to them about not just math, but the economies of scale, supply and demand. Talk about different type of diversified portfolios. The terminology is very important.
Yeah, the thing about it is, I say a lot of controversial things that are true.
Yes, you do. Maybe.
We are the most educated uh, group of people, black people in the history of America, right?
Mm-hmm.
Any generation, most educated generation. Yet we are the most financially illiterate. We
Yeah.
have the lowest net worth, and there's something that we need to do as a community to address that.
Absolutely. There should be financial curriculum at minimum as an elective in these schools, because many students who graduate from high school and matriculate to college, they're not prepared financially. And guess what? When they graduate with an undergrad degree, they're not prepared financially. So, start them off at the elementary school level. That's what we need to do so that we could be in a more competitive environment.
Yeah.
So,
So we won't get into this today, but maybe we'll get into it on Thursday. But you and I were talking earlier about the many people that are out there talking about insurance as an investment,
yeah.
and all these things. And I'll never forget my first interview before I became a licensed financial advisor. And the guy that was interviewing me was a black guy. And the
Mhm.
first thing he said to me is, "We do not sell insurance as investments here."
Hmm.
Now,
Hmm.
I didn't understand that initially, but over the years, I figured out that
Yeah.
there are people out there selling insurance because they can't sell anything else. They're not licensed to sell other investment products and things like this. And so, the role of the school can be very important. we hope that we can get school districts to be more proactive at this. And our guest tonight, Dr. Shonda, she sits on the school board. She's a chair of the school board,
Yes.
and so I'm going to be excited to hear what she thinks about this.
Absolutely. She's a seasoned, academia expert in the field of, leadership at the board level and in the classroom, and with some initiatives that the audience will hear about in just a moment. So I'm excited to bring her on.
So before we go, tell what is the time of the class on Thursday?
So the class is on Thursday for 1 hour, everyone, from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. We talk about what's happening in the world of finance and economics. Why did the Dow drop 643 points today? What was the cause of that? We'll get into, again, some terminology. We will answer questions that you might have. There are no stupid questions except the ones that are not asked. Therefore, Mr. Terrence will not laugh at you if you ask what is the difference between a mutual fund and a stock. So please join us. It's no charge. Join us. This brother is a wealth of knowledge. He is an encyclopedia of finance. Tune in on Thursday, 5:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. If you're interested, hopefully you will be. Send an email to me at sratliff68@yahoo.com. And in turn, I will send a link to access the class. Again, no charge. It is $0 to hear real financial advice and answer your questions about finance, Bitcoins, cryptocurrency, a corporation, whatever. Tune in.
See you guys next week.
All right. So we'll move forward with our guests. I'm excited. This is a good friend of ours, the family and the community, Dr. Shonda Harris-Muhammed, also known affectionately as Dr. HM. She's a 30-year educator. And for 14 years, Dr. HM has provided free school supplies and other resources to the children and teachers in the city of Richmond, Virginia, in that area through her nonprofit, Northside Coalition for Children. Dr. Shonda was raised in a town called Cuckoo, Virginia. Now, that's a real town, guys. Cuckoo, Virginia. But geographically, it's just west of Richmond, Virginia, and it's located in Louisa County, where her grandparents raised her with a tremendous amount of love, protection, and support, something we all want when we're growing up, especially as a community. Dr. HM is a graduate at Norfolk State University and HBCU in Norfolk, Virginia, where she received a Bachelor of Science degree in mathematics. She completed her Master's of Science and her Doctorate of Education through Walden University. Shout out to Walden University. Dr. HM currently serves as the coordinator of pupil personnel and hearing officer for Southampton County Schools and serves as the school board representative for the 6th District and current chairwoman for Richmond City Public Schools. Dr. HM co-authored her first book titled The Unvoiced Pain, Releasing Depression and Anxiety. It is the #1 new bestseller on Amazon. Dr. HM is wife to brother Demetrius and mother of 2 children, Anthony and Khadijah, and they bring great joy to each other's lives. And without further ado, I'd like to bring on Dr. Shonda Harris-Muhammed. How you doing, my sister?
Good evening, everyone.
Yes.
Brother Dr. Reggie Ratliff, thank you so much
sister.
for inviting me this evening. Hello, DMV. Hello.
Yes, DMV in the
It's
house.
an honor to be with you this evening. Thank you so much for allowing me to be on your most famous podcast.
From over there. Thank you so much, Dr. Harris-Muhammed. I'm so glad that you were able to take time from your busy schedule, the start of the new school year. I know that you're doing a lot of hat wearing and, getting things in order. So I thank you for taking some time this podcast.
Oh, absolutely. Look, I don't have much going on. I'm just chilling.
Chilling, huh? Just chilling like a villain. That's all good. Well,
thank you. Yes,
I want to go ahead and start off by asking you, you have a strong background, family, grandparents, now as a mom, and, 2 great children, cool husband, husband Demetrius, real good people. So let's talk about your journey. Okay. Your journey growing up in, Cuckoo, Virginia, and transitioning into academia, the motivation behind that. So, let's tell the audience about that starting off.
Yes. Great segue into why I am and who I am today. I grew up in a very dysfunctional home where abuse occurred daily. Sexual abuse, physical abuse, verbal abuse. And there was a point in time in my life where, as a young child, the only way that I felt that I could be relieved from that pain was to no longer be here. And attempted to take my own life as a young child. And I was home alone. And shortly after that time frame, that period in my life, my grandparents went through the process of obtaining custody of me, full custody of me. And that process, that courageous move to save me from the abuse and also save me from myself was very much needed. And had they not taken those steps to remove me from a very chaotic and dysfunctional home at that time, I don't know if I would be here today. And that is the truth coming from the depths of my spirit.
Yes.
My grandparents saved me from a lot of what could have been because of what I was probably prepared to do to myself. Okay?
Yes.
And so prayer in their home was first and foremost every day.
Nice.
And being the only child of my dad, my mother married several times. She lost 2 husbands before she was 27. And I'm sharing that to say my mother had her own trauma that was not recognized or dealt with.
Right.
And so that trauma trickled down to her children, particularly her daughters. And so my grandparents became a pivotal movement in my life and to help me address through prayer, because that's what they knew. Okay. They didn't complete high school, but what they did know was pray. They knew how to pray. They knew prayer. And we went to church 8 days a week, and there's only 7 days in a work.
Hey,
twice on Sunday. And so they knew to pray over me daily. And it took some time for me to even understand where I was, what had really happened to me, and then how to deal with that, right?
Right.
And so growing up with them provided love, provided protection. But one of the things I remember, and I'm going to share this with the audience, one of the things I remember my grandmother saying to my mother in the bathroom in that courtroom was, until you get yourself together, you can't have her. She has a promise over her life.
Yes.
And so that was courageous.
Yes, indeed.
That was very courageous. And I also remembered, I'm going to share this too.
Yes, please.
My mother came to visit, and my grandmother, cooked. It was a feast. Every day we ate well. I never knew we were poor.
Right.
But my mother had said something or had done something or said something, and I responded to her by raising my voice in my grandparents' house.
Oh, in the home? Oh.
And my grandmother said, don't you ever. Now, my grandmother was petite, and she was, 5'1", maybe.
Okay.
Maybe 5'1",
right.
maybe 5'2" with stilettos on.
Okay.
But she yanked me, got up in my face and said, don't you ever raise your voice at your mother in my house, because this is the only one you got.
Right. Amen.
And I was confused. I was like,
right.
what do you mean?
Right.
What do you don't I raise my voice to my mom, who in my mind had created this pain in my life.
Yeah.
And my grandmother made it very clear, not in my house will you do that.
Right.
And so later on, my grandmother and I talked. I sat beside her on that sofa. My grandmother said, she said, baby, my nickname was Shampoo. She said, Shampoo, no matter what you think your mother has done to you, no matter what you think your mother has not done for you,
right,
she is still your mother.
Powerful.
And your mother is dealing with her own pain.
Right, right.
That she didn't have a mother to help her through. She said, but you will break the cycle.
All right.
You will not walk anymore in what has been holding you
right
down and back. And that was, I felt like, just go ahead and whoop me down for yelling at her. Just go ahead and whoop me down.
Get it over with her. Get it over. Yeah.
But my grandmother respected that my mom was my mom. She was not trying to replace my mom.
Right.
She made it very clear to my mom, she can't continue in this environment. And she also made it clear to me, you won't talk to her. You won't disrespect her.
Right.
You will not mistreat your mother.
Right.
Because of what God has said that thus do. And so that really demonstrated for me the love that my grandmother had, not only for me, but the love that she had for the Lord. Because no matter what was happening in my life, she was going to ensure that righteousness was going to be done. That was my introduction to faith.
Right. That's nice. So you said first it was confusing, but then it seemed like over time it started to come together because you just mentioned about faith. Faith, things we hope for, the evidence of things not seen. That faith that moved mountains was just the size of the mustard seed. That faith that turned somebody such as yourself as a young girl into this prosperous, spiritually gifted, anointed, moving mountains today as a mom. Who clearly has broken that cycle.
Oh, yeah.
Clearly.
Because I believed that, listen, I did not take my life for a reason. I couldn't even do that right. But I want people to listen to that. I could not do that right in that season, which was not meant for me to do that right.
Exactly.
Because God had a plan. See, I can't talk about what I've been through and where I am without talking about my mountain of faith.
That's right.
Because it is only that which has kept me. All of the things that you read, that you probably read in my brief bio,
right,
that was allowed by faith.
Right.
Walking on the campus of Norfolk State University, being one of 4 Black females majoring in mathematics at that time, was faith. When my guidance counselor said to me, well, what you really need to do is go to the technical center.
Of course.
And just really pick up a trade like doing hair. And I said, well, I don't do my own hair, so I know I'm not going to go do nobody else's hair.
Exactly. Right.
Because my sister does my hair 3 times a week, and I'm not going to do nobody else's hair. I don't want to do that. And I remember him saying that to me. So I made it my business.
Yes.
Because I just believed. Now, I didn't really know what a whole lot of faith was in high school.
Right.
But all I knew was when my papa told me, you can do anything that you set your mind to.
He was right.
And when he said that to me, I was like, oh, because my papa said I can do anything I set my mind to. I'm going to do just that. Right?
Absolutely.
And so that's how I walked on the campus of Norfolk State University. I didn't have anybody help me fill out the application. I didn't have anybody help me fill out the financial aid application. I didn't have anybody help me complete the scholarship information. As a matter of fact, my counselor did not call me to the office when he called other seniors to give scholarship information. So I not even having a access to internet.
Right.
I just went looking for scholarships, the best that I could.
Right.
So all my life in the story, I've
Hmm.
learned how to fight.
How to fight. Yes.
All
Yes.
my life, I've
Yes.
learned how to fight.
Hmm.
And so when I walked on that campus and I told a woman of color that I wanted to major in mathematics, she asked me why. I said, because I love numbers.
Mm-hmm.
She said, then that's what you're going to do.
That's right. That's right.
And so for me, that was my first breakthrough of
Yeah.
a woman of color
Yes.
co-signing on that I could do anything.
There you go.
Right?
That's right. That's right.
And so it wasn't easy. I was one of 4 young African-American women on the campus of a HBCU
Yes.
majoring in mathematics in the 90s.
In the 90s. Yes.
And when I was asked, was I sure that I wanted to major in mathematics?
Right.
I didn't have any tact then. I was just tactless.
But let me interrupt just for a second. See, you said the 90s. The 90s back then was not the same as today.
Correct.
There wasn't as much, there maybe zero blatant sexist behavior towards a future Dr. Shonda Harris-Muhammed.
Come on.
You know, everything's by equality and that's good, but you blazed the trail. You and many out there back in the late 80s through the 90s blazed the trail for these young men and women to do what they do today. And I just wanted to pinpoint that. I just wanted to parenthetically pause right there because of what you
Wow, that simply amazing, because the other 3 women, young women of color, were in a advanced gifted academic program. I was not, but I was still majoring in mathematics. I still went through the program just like the young brothers and young men of other ethnicities. And so I'm sharing that story of breaking a barrier or making a pathway or, you know, creating a bridge for other people. Because at that point in my life, I needed Norfolk State University. I needed them to wrap me into that love that I had never experienced going to a predominantly white high school.
Right.
And having people tell me that I was not going to be successful because of all these things that had happened to me. And, oh, by the way, my looks will pave the way for me to be successful. And what people don't realize was my looks and my mind was the reason why I had been abused.
Say that again. Yeah.
So you have just hit a trigger point. And that is why Norfolk State was so essential in my life at that time for me to be successful. And so I learned not only my Black culture, I began to learn myself. I began to learn how to work with other people of color.
Right.
I learned not to be afraid to speak my truth. I learned that not every man was the same type of man.
Yes.
And that I did have an absence of a father figure because my father died when I was 18 months old. And that not every man who offered tutoring was offering tutoring so they could get something from me. And I had a man on the campus of Norfolk State tell me, you are worthy to be treated with respect. So learn how to respect yourself.
Wow. That's powerful. You are. Go ahead. You preaching.
Courageous. Again, that C word, courageous for a brother to say to me, you are worthy. Let me stop you, my sister. You are worthy. And if you continue to treat yourself beneath, what you think you are, then you're inviting other people to treat you the same way.
Yes, indeed. Yes,
So
indeed.
Norfolk State University, oh my gosh. At such a time at that in my life, I would not be a third of the woman I am without the education, the support, and let me also add financial support, because I didn't have to pay much to go to Norfolk State
Nice.
University.
Yes.
But the tough love, but the support that was provided to me, I wouldn't be a third of the woman that I am today. So I proudly say that I'm a graduate of Norfolk State University, because at that time in my life, I needed them more than they needed my money. And because they saw that I needed them,
yes.
Let me tell you something.
Yeah, go ahead.
Nothing like Black people pulling another young Black woman up.
Absolutely.
And ensuring that she is successful.
Mm.
And that is what Norfolk State did for me. And not taken away from PWIs.
Sure.
I am speaking to my experience.
Yes.
As a graduate of Norfolk State University. And that is why that is one of the reasons why I highly promote HBCUs, because I know what an HBCU did for me.
Absolutely. It's a camaraderie, it's a family, it's a support.
Absolutely.
And it's like you said, it's just tough love. And that it appeared like, no test, no testimony, right? You took that testimony that you are bringing out there is really hidden out there. I see the responses from the podcast. Somebody shout out Virginia Union University, in Virginia.
Yay, Union.
Yes, indeed. So you're clearly that this message is resonating with our audience, and we need to hear that. HBCUs, they sometimes get a bad rap. They get a bad rap.
Correct.
Unless you consider one of the elite HBCUs, quote unquote, like a Morehouse, Tuskegee. I mean, that kind of thing. So, but Norfolk State University, I can attest, is a tremendous university.
My heart.
Yes, it's a tremendous university. So, thank you for sharing that. And I just wanted to ask you, how did
I have to say this. Let me say this.
Oh,
I'm
please,
sorry. Behold the green and gold. I just had to say that for those who are watching.
You guys hear that? Behold the green and gold.
Behold the green and gold. Yes, sir. Okay, I just had to say that.
So you were able to break that yoke, to break through, to become that person you found, thanks in large part to the counselors and the educators at Norfolk State University, your grandparents and things like that. And how did that transition you into becoming a educator and propel you to leadership in education? All that you talked about, that content in that cup that nobody else could drink. How were you able to just keep it going?
Well, public education was not my goal. I had it was not listed on, what are you going to do after you graduate from high school? What are you going to do when you graduate from Norfolk State University? Public education teaching was not it. Okay? I wanted to go into the U.S. Army.
Okay.
Because my grandfather and his brothers were former military. They were veterans.
Gotcha.
My brother at the time was in the Marines. And I said, well, this is the path. All these men went into the military. Why can't I go into the military?
Sure.
So, I had a very defiant temperament. I'm going into the military.
Hey.
And so I remember taking the ASVAB 4 times. And I failed 4 times. And so the 4th time, when my papa asked me, my papa already knew I had failed it, but I believe he sensed it. But the 4th time and final time, I took the ASVAB and failed it. And I shared it with my grandparents.
Yeah.
My papa said, we were sitting at the dinner table. And my papa said, I think you need to do something else. I was like, but I don't want to do anything
Right.
else.
Right.
I want to go into the military. I want to go into the army. And my grandmother, she just, my grandmother doing her thing. She just sitting there with a napkin, just, quiet, listening.
Yes.
And she oftentimes had to play the bridge builder between me and my papa, because I'm like, I want to do this. But, and I began to think, and my papa said, as only my papa could say, and this was a moment of ministering to me.
Mm-hmm.
He said, what has God called you to do?
Ooh. Yes.
And I just looked like,
right.
I don't know. I don't talk to him like that. I mean, maybe I should ask him. I don't know. I mean,
yeah.
Did you find out from him what he wants me to do?
Right.
And so that was the pivotal moment in my life when I began to talk comfortably with the Lord.
Mm. Mm.
God, what is it that you want me to do?
Yes. Yes.
What is it that I need to do in my life?
Mm.
Do I have a purpose?
Mm.
I do want to have a purpose. I want to be here for my son.
Yes, indeed.
I love my grandparents.
Yes.
I love my sister and brothers.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to make a difference. What do I need to do?
Mm-hmm.
And I fell into education. So that led me to teaching mathematics because I had the degree.
Right,
so
right.
I'm gonna make it work for me.
Absolutely.
And, begin to advocate for children who not only look like me now,
mm-hmm.
but other children who I recognized were going through some similar stories that I had been through as a child.
Right.
Into my teenage years.
Yeah.
And so many children, my first case of advocating for a student did not look like me. She did not look like me.
Okay.
She was a Caucasian girl.
Okay.
And I advocated for that babe, and I advocated for her because she shared what was happening to her.
Right, right.
And I believe, and I have always believed this, Doc, when children know how much you care about them,
say that.
They're going to spread that word that's the real one right there.
Yep.
She don't play, she crazy.
Yep.
But she for real.
All that.
And when they know how much you care about them, you got them.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And so they don't care how much you know. They want to know how much you care. Now, my advocacy sometimes got me in trouble because I didn't understand tact. I didn't understand policy. I didn't understand procedures. I didn't understand protocol. But what I understood was I'm a fight for these children. I'm a fight because I was one of them.
Right.
Then years later, continuing to teach.
Yes.
A woman of color, Dr. Joanne Henry, who is a retired educator in Richmond, Virginia, said to me, I'm going to help you. I said, do what? Do what? She said, you need to be an assistant principal. I said, no, I don't. She said, I want you to intern under me. I said, no, you don't.
Right.
She said, no. So through that mentoring, which was tough because I didn't always like what she said to me. And I definitely didn't like the way she said it.
Right. Okay.
I went into administration. Going into administration, completed my master's at Wharton University.
Yes.
Because I knew as a woman of color, I needed that.
Yes.
I began to learn advocacy. And I began to learn policy. Because policy drives every dependent or independent school division. I'm bringing it home for people.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
In order to advocate for children, for teachers, for yourself in public education, you got to know the policy.
Yes.
It's not for a good read. It will make you sleepy, but understanding policy and the process and procedures, The 3 Ps is what I call them as a school board member.
Mm-hmm.
Understanding and knowing the 3 Ps would be able to help you navigate all of those inequities that occur in the space where a table is set up, but we're not invited. So what I learned to do is I'm going to bring my own dinner table and I'm going to bring my own chair, and I don't need anybody to introduce me. I'm going to introduce myself.
There you go. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
Because what I stated earlier was all my life I did what? I
could fight.
I could fight. I've had to fight, and not physically, but I've had to fight in power. I've had to fight as a student. I've had to fight as a teacher. I've had to stand and tell people, you can't touch me inappropriately.
Right.
I know how to advocate for myself.
Right.
I know the HR policies. You will not abuse the fact that I'm smart and I'm attractive and I'm beautiful and I dress well, and you think that you can close the door and have me up against a wall. No, you're gonna be on the floor.
Right. Yeah. That's what's necessary to fight physically.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so policy is what drove me to public office.
Nice.
As a school board representative. Yeah. And I have gained wisdom as a 31-year educator because of the tiers of levels, or the levels and the tiers that I have been able to experience and to learn. All of this was strategically orchestrated and designed by the Lord.
Yes. Amen.
I need you in this space so you can gain this. I need you in this space so you can work through this. I need you in this space so you can speak to that. I need you to be a special education compliance because see, God knew this, because your children are going to need special education services. Come on now. There's a reason why.
Yes.
There's a reason why God does what he does.
Yes. Seasons. He has you go through these seasons.
Through seasons. Yeah. Okay. And even though my children needed speech therapy services, and I actually suffered from speech growing up, and still do sometimes, but I had to advocate for my children.
Absolutely.
And so that is why I fight the way that I do, but I fight with my mind. I fight with wisdom.
Yes.
I fight with policy.
Yes.
Okay. I fight with facts.
Right.
And the data to support the evidence with making decisions. So I know that all of this walks into a room. And I know all of this people may be threatened by. I know all of this people may not want to deal with. But what you can't take away from me is the education that I was taught and the education I taught myself.
There you go. I love that transition. We have so much we could talk about, Dr. HM, and I would like to, kind of tie this in a bow because you have really unpacked a lot of things. You are preaching to the mass. Just let me just tell you that you're preaching to the mass, and we see people who are responding during this podcast. You have really elevated people's confidence and probably breaking yokes. People may have gone through something, but I tell you, this podcast will continue to run even after tonight, so others may see it and hear this ministry that you're talking about that's helping others and paying it forward, being a blessing to others. So as we conclude this part of the podcast, you wrote this book. Yes. The Unvoiced Pain, Releasing Depression and Anxiety, and I want you to kind of close this discussion by talking about your book and how that connects to those who may be struggling, the silent sufferers, if you will, who may not be as strong as you was when you went through it, and to get through that pain and that darkness, finding the light by the aid of the Holy Spirit and having hot pie and the grandmas and that kind of thing. How do you, I'm not going to preach. How can you empower, encourage those out there who are watching tonight? And I give you a couple minutes to do that because truly, there are some yokes that need to be broken out here. People need to hear what you have to say. And you saying to my sister, so much love to you and your family, your husband, and your 2 children, and all the children that live outside your home that feel what you're saying when you're with them. Stage is yours.
I made a decision that I would no longer be bound by the abuse that I endured as a child. I made a decision that I needed some help and support because I was worthy enough to live. So I fought my way back through the trials and tribulations, and in many instances, getting in my own way and being afraid of asking for support, because sometimes in our culture of being a Black woman is uncomfortable, and you shouldn't ask for support. You shouldn't ask for help. I made a decision that in helping me break the barrier to, one, be honest with my children, that this is what happened to the mom. Secondly, address what I needed support and help in, to no longer be bound. Come on. I won't wearing that chain no more. I carried it long enough. And my faith carried me over that mountain. Just hear my voice. You cannot remain bound to trauma and depression and anxiety. So through the book that I co-authored with 7 other phenomenal women, The Unvoiced Pain, Releasing Depression and Anxiety, I tell my story of how I fought my way back. All my life, I've had to fight. But I learned how to fight with Christ. I'm so important. I am so worthy. And so when I began to believe those words and those emotions, I began to take a credence of, I'm going to be released from what happened to me. Recognize that it happened, but no longer own that it was my fault. And that I'm going to grow through it. Grow through it. Be honest with yourself that you need to release it. And not only through the mountain of faith, not only through the mountain of faith, I stood in my truth. And I believe that is why God has called me to the field of public education. It was not about me. It was about his service and showing others, using me, that you no longer have to be bound. And I made that decision. And that is why I co-authored a book. So it can not only continue to heal me, but to heal others.
Yes, Lord.
And to let them know that, one, we need to address it in the Black community.
Yes, indeed.
And therapy is okay.
Indeed. Indeed.
Meditating is okay.
Absolutely.
Going to the altar to have someone lay hands on you, all that is good.
Mm-hmm.
But also utilize the resources that are spiritually formulated to support your every being. And honesty with yourself in the mirror. This happened to me. And it was horrible.
Yes.
But it does not have to happen to you.
No way.
And when I tell my story, it's breaking a chain.
Yes, it is. Yes, indeed. Dr. Shonda Harris-Muhammed. What a powerful journey. What a powerful testimony. She did it through faith, and that's what got her through. It wasn't just her, but it was those around her who loved her, but she believed in Holy Spirit, and she believed in herself. If you are suffering with depression, if you are being abused sexually or physically or emotionally, talk about it. Tell somebody. Don't keep it to yourself. Do what Dr. Harris-Muhammed just told us tonight. You are somebody. I am Dr. Reggie Ratliff. Thank you for tuning in tonight. Like us on Facebook and continue to tune in. God bless you. May the Lord continue to keep you. Be encouraged. Have a good night.